It took us 28 weeks, but we have finally arrived at Year of the Mecha to the point where we could show off the first real Macross game. We got Kaboom Dragoon here.
Hello.
And this is, this is a good one. This is, like, when I say this is the first real Macross game, I absolutely mean it, because this is the first game with the Macross, license attached to it, where it genuinely feels like an attempt to, like, actually capture the feeling of piloting a Valkyrie. And it was here on the old PS2.
Still not quite as nostalgic as the old PS1. Whoa.
Yeah.
I still like
it. Yeah, PlayStation never had a better startup sound than that.
Sounded like it was reverberating right in the way through to your spine.
Oh, yeah, it's like a...
Just inject that shit right into my veins.
Just a transcendent experience. But yeah, this is Super Dimension Fortress Macross, named after the original anime that started it all, and developed by our friends at Sega AM2.
They sure do get around, don't they?
Yeah, make the best arcade games in the industry, and like during this time especially, it's like if you just hand them a genre, they're guaranteed to like understand how to make it work and produce gold. Although I have one problem with this. That is not the AM2 logo. Fuck off.
No. Where's the palm tree?
Yeah. Also, CRI Tool. You know, like using that middleware from a company that was originally like a proper game developer. Because here's the actual interesting story behind the tech side of this game, I would say. Back on the Dreamcast... That short-lived, wonderful little console, there was a flight action game, or I guess flight sim you could call it. I mean, as much as a sim as you could make it on a console with like a gamepad that has limited inputs. But that was called Aero Dancing, or as it was called in the West, Aero Wings.
Yeah, I remember seeing the adverts for that and seeing it in the shops, but never actually playing it myself. It's just one of those games that seemed to be everywhere at the start of the console's lifespan.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, especially with the, because the main focus of that was more about, like, compared to something like Ace Combat, which, you know, that was, like, jet fighters, you know, having, like, you know, was flight combat. Aero Wings, Aero Dancing was a lot more about, like, kind of getting the feel of, like, air shows and having liveries and, like, formation flying.
Yeah, it seems more like a formation kind of game than, like, Pilot Wings, for example.
Yeah, pretty much. And the developer behind it was CRI, who's, like, you know, especially during this time period, you would always, like, see, like, their logo on a bunch of middleware stuff. They used to make games, and they made the engine that powered Aero Dancing and worked closely with Sega on a lot of games at the time. So cut to 2003 with Sega AM2, in which they have some of like the team members that made Aero Dancing and the engine, and they basically repurposed it for Macross. So you're up to date on how this game was made.
I won't lie, it's a bit surprising that they actually hired some people who knew what they were doing to do a licensed game. Like, how often does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I guess in the case of Bandai, for whatever reason, I guess because they already, this wasn't too long after they started the Gundam Versus series, where like that whole like arcade juggernaut, and like those games, like the gameplay side of it is outsourced to Capcom. So so I think even then, with like some of these like bigger, obviously popular mecha franchises that they want to expand into different mediums, I guess they kind of realized we should probably get someone with like a good reputation to kind of like, you know, make the game that this series deserves.
Make it more of a prestige title than a cash-in.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously, like, is this enough of a, you know, a polished title that it would, like, be on the same level as, like, say, any of the Ace Combat games from this era? Probably not. Probably not for the people that are especially into Ace Combat, you know? Just because, I mean, you look at any of those games holistically, it's got a whole lot going on, whereas this is still a licensed game, even with it being made by developers that clearly care about making sure they get the gameplay right. In a lot of cases, they mostly only have the time to make sure they get the gameplay right. And they just kind of have to keep the rest of it simple.
Yeah, I was playing the most recent one on the PS5. I think it was 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 7. And even though I was playing it with, you know, easy controls and so forth, I was still like, trying to play this, you know, normally would be madness.
Yeah.
Like, those games are a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm. So we got, like, all kinds of different stuff. I mean, I could go into the tutorial, but I actually got myself refreshed on how this game plays by going through the tutorial and remembering what all the buttons do. So we're just actually going to go straight into the stories, as it called, because... So how this game works is that this is based on the original Super Dimension Fortress Macross, but it allows you to play scenarios from both the TV anime and the movie Do You Remember Love? And which version you get is dependent on which of these campaigns you choose, because it's like you're basically choosing where your character is going to be stationed in the UN Spacey. Prometheus Wings
an interesting way of doing it.
Yeah, Prometheus Wings is the TV campaign. Armed 01 Wings is the Do You Remember Love campaign. This one has more missions and is less difficult. This one has fewer missions and is more difficult.
I was going to say, is the shorter is the movie one shorter but more punishing?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of like the way to look at it. And at the start of each mission as well, we get a nice kind of slideshow recap of like what happens in the series, like kind of events prior to the actual in-game mission. So, you know, the very start of the series, everyone remembers after the giant ship crashes on the island and gets converted into the Macross itself.
In the year 2009, there's fucking aliens everywhere coming out of the sky. Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
There's Captain Global. And Gloria.
He have the excellent mustache and hat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Is
part of the pineapple cake.
We do not bring up the pineapple here.
Add that one to the list.
No, I'm not putting pineapple in the banned phrases list. That's for the other. That's for the other phrase. The one referring to like the other version of this show that shall not be named because fuck Harmony Gold. Rest in peace, Frank Kagrama. You will not be missed.
Nothing of value was lost.
That said, though, whether going with the Prometheus or the Armed 01 route, you don't play as any of the characters from actual Macross. So you're not Hikaru, you're not Roy, you're not Max. God, I wish I... Well, no, even then, I feel like given the legendary status of Maximilian fucking Genius, I feel like trying to make a game where you're in his shoes would be almost impossible to convey.
Yeah. That would be, like, you would require... It would require you to get, like, all S ranks or whatever, and then it's just wave after wave of enemies coming at you one at a time, and you just blowing them away with ease.
And then in between those, you have to do, like, a visual novel section where you have to, like, indulge in your space fetish and marry an alien. And you have
like
to say everything just right.
Like a dating sim, but every choice just leads to her attacking you with a knife for some reason.
God
and then she
bless
throws a baby at you and she's like, here, cat.
Here, cat.
Just found
God
this
bless
baby
Milia.
somewhere. It's not ours. Don't tell her that.
Yeah. Oh no, the Macross accidentally fired its big fuck-off cannon and shot something out of the atmosphere. What do we do? I guess it's war now.
That
Fuck.
doesn't lead to anything bad.
But yeah,
I'm not familiar with the Japanese voice cast. Is there much of them in this, or is it all newcomers?
Oh, it's definitely the original cast. Like, you know, like Misa, Hikaru, Roy, Max, like all them. Like, it's their original voice actors. Most of them, at least, are still alive today. Unfortunately, Hikaru's voice actor passed away some time ago, which was a real shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are original characters in this. Our main character is unvoiced and has no portrait, so it's a total player stand-in. Instead, like we're part of like a separate Skull Squadron, because like if Roy Fokker's like leader Skull 4 and has Hikaru, Max, Takizaki as like his wingmen. You know, we got our own wingmen, Bruce and Eddie. I forget their last names, and then we have our like our op staff, like our kind of operator who gives us like combat support, called Emma Granger.
That's couldn't release couldn't release a game with that name in it these days. People would think you were trying to reference something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Funny enough. Anyway, yeah, that was a very fancy like camera for firing off an entire salvo of missiles.
Yeah, full-on glam cam there.
Yeah, and if we press the D-pad, we'll also get different like camera views, so you can actually see a much more dynamic view of the action.
It's not as slow-paced as I was expecting.
Yeah, considering like the sim nature of it, yeah.
Yeah. I was expecting it to be a bit more like Ace Combat, as we've said. So the fact that it is just like immediate is kind of a surprise, to be honest.
A little bit. We at least, because this is Macross, our Valkyries do have, 3 different forms to choose from. We have like the regular fighter mode. And then, I was trying to see if I could just shoot it down with the gun pod, but oh well. But yeah, the fighter, we got Gerwalk, and Batroid. All of those are switched by cycling through or like using a combination of the L2 and R2 buttons. Like the idea is that you can actually do like a quick switch between fighter mode and Batroid mode, skipping Gerwalk entirely if you press both L2 and R2 simultaneously.
See, I would have thought it was like L2 for previous, R2 for last.
Oh, well, like it's definitely that to a degree as well. Like it does cycle in one way if you press L2 and then cycles in the other with R2.
Ah, okay.
And here we are with in Batroid mode. It's it's not like like modern third-person shooter controls, but we do have stuff like a lock-on where L2 is basically what you use if you want to cycle from fighter to Gerwalk to Batroid. And so when you're in Batroid, continuing to hold L2 acts as a lock-on. But you can still do things like do this with the right analog stick. Yeah, the fact that you can even do this in levels where there is gravity is a detail that I really appreciate, But with the analog stick, it's like tank controls. You move backwards, forward, and turn, and you have to use like the R1 and L1 buttons to strafe. Gerwalk, meanwhile, is like it is definitely like the hardest to come to grips with as far as like how it controls, because with the analog stick you change like the facing direction, and with the right analog stick you press it up or down in order to change elevation, and then rotate it left or right to rotate, like do that barrel roll, and you still use R1 and L1 to strafe. So definitely, it takes some getting used to. That's for sure. This is like quite different compared to even how later Macross games end up handling this sort of thing.
I was going to say, it feels like a very early, very basic arena shooter. And then you throw in the Gerwalk mode, and it's like, okay, I don't know anymore. I have no field of reference for this shit.
Yeah, definitely. Also, kind of a shame that, like, with this particular first mission, even though I was able to do it in my practice run, I have already, like, fucked up my ability to get this one no damage. In Batroid mode, however, it's like you do have like two forms of attack. You have like your gun pod, obviously, and you have like your little beam antenna from your head, which is actually meant for your for missile interception, because missiles.
Using that
it's
much in the
Macross.
show.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to use, in all honesty. That's mostly because of like a certain, I'll call this like a flaw, or at least an oversight of this game, because it's like they seem to put a limitation on what you can do in Batroid mode, even though in Macross itself, like Batroid form of Valkyries can absolutely do this. You cannot fire missiles unless you're in Gerwalk or fighter mode.
Yeah, that's an oversight.
Yeah. It's like, it's an oversight that also feels like someone probably thought to do that because they felt it needed to be done for balance.
Yeah,
When it's like, that's not a good excuse.
No, like, it's not Macross if there's not a bazillion missiles flying all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not even a big fan of Macross, and even I know that.
Yeah. Like, if anything, the way you would balance it out with Batroid form, like firing missiles, is that you would just have the missiles like shoot upward into the sides of where you're facing, and then they kind of reconvene like in a large turning radius. Because with Gerwalk and Fighter, like the missiles they're meant to fire in your facing direction, so like the less they have to turn to get to their target, the more accurate they're going to be.
Yeah, have them be dumbfire missiles, or, as you say, have like a less of a homing to them, and just make the homing capabilities on the other two forms better.
Yeah. Yes, Ben, this is a weird-looking virtual on. I'm genuinely surprised, Amelie, that Hitmaker did not do any support work on this game. Because since virtual on
Anime Edition. Oh wait.
Oh,
Whoops.
Certain magical virtual
well,
on.
I'm out
Don't
of
remind
ideas.
me. You remember that fucking shit? The fucking virtual on / certain magical index crossover that nobody asked for.
I feel these days more and more that like the crossover that no one asked for applies to the majority of crossovers.
Yeah.
Like they're doing one for the Shin Megami Tensei mobile game where they're crossing over with Evangelion for literally no fucking reason.
Oh, what the fuck?
Like there's not even an anniversary this year.
Yeah, that is so... What the fuck?
They did one with Devil May Cry, which makes more sense.
Yeah, because they had Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
And they had one with Berserk, which I will say is more fitting in terms of maybe not content, but definitely in terms of feel for some of the games.
Yeah.
Evangelion is just why. I like Evangelion and I don't get it.
Yeah, it's something. Look at that. Fucking love the missile cam. When you just get like a full lock on to like even a single enemy.
Is that random chance, or can you get it by holding down a button or something?
Oh yeah, it's like you hold down circle to queue up your missiles, and it's like if the hexagon around a single enemy is completely filled, You know, like it's all red. Then you get the missile cam. The other alternative is you see those squares like right in the bottom center. Like that's the maximum amount of missiles I can fire at once. That's the other condition if you manage to like get all the like missiles like queued up on however many enemies. Like so, yeah, because that was all 10.
Ah, okay.
Just gotta keep dealing with like these stragglers as we're like all the way up in space.
Gonna say for a PS2 game, this is really good looking. You could tell me it was like an early PS3 game, and I believe it.
Yeah, it definitely does have that hyper aliased look that PS2 games definitely have. I don't know exactly if this is using the sort of field rendering technique that a lot of the early games did, because I'm not noticing a lot of like the screen juddering that typically comes with it, because it was basically like a super heavy like interlaced look that it would have. Yeah. Come on, catch up. Damn it.
It's got that kind of sharpness and sheen that a lot of the early PS3 titles had.
A little, yeah. Definitely less of the obvious bloom, though, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they were throwing that shit in like they were trying to get rid of it.
Yeah. Go. But yeah, it's just like, when you get the hang of it, you do obviously know that, like, when you're playing this, you quickly figure out, like, which of your three forms are kind of best for what, and kind of, like, what is the ideal method for switching between them. That's often, I feel like, it's always been, I think, a mix when trying to get people to figure out, like, the appeal of a Macross game like this and how to make it work in a game design sense. Because you have these three different forms, and I feel like the first hurdle of getting people to understand what their use case is becomes infinitely harder if they've never bothered to watch it in the first place. Because you watch Macross and you can see like what each of them kind of has, what kind of each form has in terms of their role. But you show them what Gerwalk looks like initially, and they're like, this is just a plane with legs and arms. This thing looks dumb.
It looks like you were changing a transformer and stopped halfway through.
Yeah. This second half of the mission.
That's what people used to say back in the day. Is like, this just looks like a broken transformer.
Yeah, but this, I absolutely love like this second half of the mission, because you're just re-entering the atmosphere and you have to fall and catch up to the Macross itself. It is so cool.
Free falling.
Like, there's a great sense of like, because there are Macross games after this, mostly the ones that are like from ArtDink in particular, and those I love, especially Triangle Frontier on the PSP. It's like so chock full of content. But if there's one thing that I feel this that this game absolutely does the best at capturing, besides the more flight simulation aspect of piloting a Valkyrie, because for real, the default form, is naturally the fighter mode. But it's just the sense of like moments where you feel like you're free falling, especially in Batroid form. That's always been like the most appealing part about like fights in the Macross series. Where it's just like, it's the mix of flying and free falling in the big open sky.
And it's not something you see in like games, full stop.
Yeah.
The only one I can think of that did anything like that was Cybernator.
Yeah, that was like the... Wait, Cybernator, that was the 2D mecha fighting game. Capcom, right?
Assault Suits. It was released in the... It was Assault Suits Vulcan. It was released in the West.
Oh, my mistake. I was thinking of Cyberbots for whatever reason.
No, Cyberbots is the fighting game.
yeah.
Bit of a difference.
I got my cybers mixed up. It's whatever.
Yeah. No, that's the only one I can think of, and I think in that case, I vaguely remember them saying they were explicitly influenced by Zeta Gundam.
Yeah, I could see that.
This is a really famous scene where they drop out of a drop ship through the atmosphere and get attacked, leading to hilarity and casualties.
Just trying to make what I can of this mission last before I just go back to land on the Macross itself.
Does this just take out X targets before you come home, or?
I mean, the targets are basically extra in this case. It's just more like I'm doing it because it's fun.
Ah, fair enough.
Like, the main point is you gotta catch up to where the Macross is because it's gonna get ready to fold out. We all know what happens when it folds. Big-ass teleport.
I remember I had one of the books. It was the first omnibus, which covered the first two of the prose novels, which I think was meant to be like the first 12 or 18 episodes, basically the first two arcs.
Yeah.
And the description of it is that because it teleports away a big chunk of Macross Island with it, is the water freezes immediately. And there was an afterwards, because it was one of the re-released editions in about 99 or 2000, I think it was. And they basically went, yeah, we know that it should have boiled, evaporated, and then exploded all at once, but, you know, A, this was the 80s, and B, no one would have known or cared, so we just went for the easiest way of doing it.
That's a good point.
So do you actually ever get to play as the Macross itself?
You don't. I think that would have been too good.
Just because in the intro it showed the quite a few shots of it transforming and taking fire. I was like, oh please, tell me we get to stomp all around the place in that.
Yeah. Okay, no, my mistake. We did have to take those out because there's like a final wave, as it were.
God, these guys just do not know when to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, not the best at, like, avoiding damage, which is kind of important considering, like, there's, like, a whole ranking system for these missions. I've done it before, and getting an S rank is quite a task.
I always feel like games like these back in the day were much harsher with their bonus content than in modern times.
Yeah. Alright. Now we're ready to fold out.
Hold on to your butts, butt holders.
And it's like the mission selection is, you know, obviously it's not like the largest amount of missions possible. It's basically 20, you know, 12 for the TV series, 8 for the movie. And like the missions they do pick, they do a good job of really covering a lot of like the major battles and moments from the series. Like one of the missions you go through, you know, when it's during the part of the series after, you know, the Macross itself folds out into somewhere around Pluto and has to work its way back to Earth, is you know, you get the part where you get to watch the I think actually this is the one because I saw the katakana. I think this is the one where we're going to be fighting as the Macross is getting ready to transform for the first time.
I was going to say, if this was going to be an accurate adaptation of the game, it would literally need to be 2/3 dating sim.
Yeah, but I feel like at that point you would need more money and to bring on a second development team just to handle that side of the development.
Yeah, it'd be like 2003. Shit, are the Doki Doki, not Doki Doki,
Tokimeki?
Fuck, what? Tokimeki, yeah.
Yeah.
The Tokimeki guys doing anything right now?
Yeah, get Konami collaborating with this. We'll see what happens. You just get the
Just some Japanese businessman in a boardroom with a big cigar going, we'll make some magic happen.
Bentard, you shut your goddamn mouth. Sorry.
She's only worst girl because of the way she was portrayed in the Western adaptation.
Yes, the Western adaptation. Do not even attempt to try and type the name of it in chat. I have made sure it is banned. Do not use the R word.
No, the other R word.
Yeah, don't use either of them. Ben, I swear to fucking God, don't forget that. don't forget there's the other person here that has the mod privileges. You're lucky I got my hands on this DualShock.
And going into mod view, which I somehow forgot.
Oh, God damn it. See, I knew that this was going to happen. I knew someone was going to be cheeky about this. Alright, so now we gotta fight off these Entrati while protecting the Macross itself. Yeah, this is... And now we gotta hold out for 3 minutes until they can transform. Oh, shit. Well, there we go.
You had it coming.
Yeah. Even for the people that aren't tuning into this live, once they see the VOD, they'll know exactly how seriously I take my Macross.
Yeah, as I said before the stream, like, my entire, well, not entire, but I would say like a good 80% of my knowledge comes from the Western adaptation.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I have learned quite a lot about the original. In
Yeah.
a sense.
Okay, I'll use the proper Western name, Shogo Mobile Armor Division.
Okay, do you want to go sit in the naughty step twice? Because I will put you on the naughty step twice.
Nah, I'll allow it for now. Because that just mentioning Shogo of all things got a good laugh out of me.
Shogo's terrible.
I know, it's terrible.
I just want to mute him on principle at this point.
Oh my God. Monolith's worst hour. Well, aside from the fact that they stopped making games that are original to them and are just like at the whims of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, we're all hoping for something new, something like that's the best parts of Fear and Condemned, but never gonna happen. Same way, Raven is never gonna make another original FPS.
Nope, and Microsoft buying out Activision is not gonna free them from the Call of Duty gulags.
Nope. Sometimes dead is better.
Yep. Just gotta hold out for another hour, a minute, 10 minutes. Oh, shit. Yeah. Not the best at, like, keeping the Macross undamaged. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think it's, like, actually in a different game that features Macross in it. I think this, the version of this mission that's in that has a bit more of, like, an interesting element to it where it's, like, because this is just, like, you have to defend the Macross until the countdown completes. And then you see it, like, transform, like, in a cutscene, and it's given, like, all the proper attention it deserves. But in the other game I'm thinking of, which is the second Another Centuries episode, that one, you know, the countdown finishes, but you're still playing and you're fighting as you see the parts of the Macross transform.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah, that is, like, pretty awesome. Yeah, like, unsurprisingly, like, Another Centuries Episode 2 is just, like, it very closely covers a lot of the main events from Do You Remember Love as, like, several of its missions. Because I mean, why wouldn't you?
The ACE games are just fan service in their purest form when you get down to it.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, as anime fans, what would we want to see from each game represented? Cool,
yeah.
throw it in.
And when it's for, one of those is for, like, a movie that was, like, one of the most expensive and well-animated anime films of the 80s. Like, if Akira had not come out near the end of that decade, that would have been the greatest looking, like, animated film to come out of Japan.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that it is tied to Macross, I think people would probably remember it more.
Yeah. Here we go.
Or at least in the West.
SDF Macross. Look at that slow, chunky transformation.
Oh god, it's like me trying to get up off the sofa. Oh, my back! Oh, my knees! Oh, I can't feel anything below my nose.
Yes! Fire the big gun! It may not be the Daedalus attack, but it's still pretty good. When your move is to take the aircraft carrier portion of your mecha, which is on your arm, shove it into the enemy battleship, and then just deploy every piece of artillery on it from the inside of said enemy. I'm sorry, you should just surrender right now. It is not worth continuing a war. It's just not.
It's funny because I've been reading a lot of the old IDW Transformers comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I never realized until now, actually, but they've got a whole class of city Transformers called Titans.
Yeah.
Which are giant robots that turn into cities. And I never realized until now that that's probably heavily influenced in one form or another from Macross. I mean, Jetfire, the original one, was literally just a redecoed Valkyrie.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, a lot of the Gen 1 Transformers designs from the very beginning were, like, they were done by Shoji Kawamori.
Yep.
You have him to thank for the iconic design of Optimus Prime.
Yeah. And it's just weird that I never put those two things together until now.
Yeah, it's, the closer in you look to the origin, the more you realize that Transformers' existence is still greatly owed to the Japanese.
Oh yeah, 100%. They actually got in the most recent runs, actually started bringing in a lot of Japanese fan artists.
Yeah.
And the art looks stunning.
Yeah. You honestly reminded me actually that there was a fun crossover manga that was called Mazinger Z versus Transformers that I still
Oh yeah.
I need to get because I think all the 6 chapters of it are now translated, so I need to actually read through it now. But like the first chapter I read of it was like, this is pretty good, and it's like each chapter is done by a different artist. so each of them has a pretty different style. And here's another iconic moment from like during the part of the show where the Macross is trying to get back to Earth. The fight in the Ring of Saturn.
Oh yeah.
Got to get through like all like the rocks and like debris. Like again, like they do a really good job of covering like a lot of, you know, the recognizable moments from both the TV series and the anime and the movie. You know, like about as best as they can do, considering there is like this is all you in the cockpit. Like there's no on foot conversation, you know, dating elements. You don't get to play as Hikaru and decide whether or not you actually want to spend the rest of your life with Min-Mei instead of Misa. Which, to be fair, Min-Mei's a good singer, but like that's still the wrong pick.
I was always more of a fan of what do you call her? Who Max winds up with?
Milia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if that was her name or her daughter's name.
Oh no, yeah, no, her daughter's name was Mylene or Mylene. I forget. No, I think it was Mylene. Well, I think I just remember they pronounce it Mylene in Macross 7.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, she's one of the 8 children that Max and Milia ended up having by that point.
Yeah. That's, dude, keep your hands off her. She's a pilot. She needs to go to work.
Yeah. And it's
not
like
fly in a pressure suit while pregnant, dude.
Yeah. And it's like one of your 8 children is gonna be the bass player in one of the most popular like rock bands in the entire galaxy. Hey Max. Sho Hayami's voice is just divine. Especially just because like I've been you know, of like we were talking about Transformers, and I had like mentioned to you how I was trying to get into like watching like the earlier Brave series, and how like that was basically, you know, Takara wanting to do their own Transformers, but without Hasbro being assholes with them.
Yeah.
And like at this point, I've already made it to J Decker, and like with all the stuff I've watched, it's like 2 of those early series are all their main protagonist Mecha are voiced by Sho Hayami, which is just that is so good. Come on, gotta stop these missiles.
The scenario was so good it was ripped off by Star Fox 2.
Yeah, something like that. Ah, shit. Well. Oh, this is kind of annoying now because there's just way too many to keep track of, so... You know, fuck it, we're just gonna...
Jesus, Akara, get your shit together, man.
Yeah, something like that. I forget if you can just... destroy it easily like this. I think you can. Yeah,
cut out the middleman and destroy the ship.
Something like that. Mission update. Unless I am missing something again, because we're just kind of like talking about all kinds of stuff, and this game is in Japanese. Like, I know Macross well enough, obviously. I've watched these, but like I can't give the sort of fly-by-fly like translation of everything going on.
Most of the pop-ups are coming up too quickly for me to grab with Google Lens, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but yeah, I'm not surprised if like the main thing is I still need to do the I just got to deal with the missile interception, which I'm probably already failing quite terribly. Honestly, I'm gonna say that depending on how this mission goes, we'll actually switch over to the second campaign instead, just to kind of show what that's like. And even after that, we'll even do like stuff like free mission, because you can actually use some different units on top of that.
So, like the Zentradi units?
Unfortunately, no. The Zentradi units aren't included in that, but there is... it's hard for me to explain right away without, like, showing what it looks like, but, like, there's, like, an experimental Valkyrie unit that is, like, a very specific reference. Like, it has to do with, I think, in relation to, So, like, besides the TV anime and the movie, there was also, like, kind of a short special called Flashback 2012. And the idea behind that... Oh, yeah, I failed it. Fuck. Yeah, they took too much damage from the missiles. Oh, well. But the idea with Flashback 2012 is that it takes place, you know, after the events of, like, you know, once the Zentradi War is over and all that. And, and because by that point in the series... You know, most of humanity literally gets wiped the fuck out by the Zentradi. They glass the entire planet, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty much something like only 30% of humanity's left.
Yeah, it's like the only humans that are left are the ones that still stuck around on the Macross. So it's the sort of thing where even though they've been rebuilding on Earth, they realize that because of the existence of, you know, other species besides them, and the fact that they suffered a near-apocalyptic event, they're like... Obviously, we need to rebuild Earth, but we also need to, like, spread ourselves among the stars so that we never are in a situation where all of us could just be wiped out because we've congregated in a single location.
I wonder if they were fans of Dune when they were making this.
I can see that. I guess that wouldn't surprise me.
That's right out of God Emperor.
Ah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, alright, so... Yeah, we'll check out RMD01. I'm actually going to skip Mission 1 because that's more or less like almost identical to Stage 1 on the Prometheus route. Like it's still like the same sort of attack on South Italia Island.
Mm.
So we're just gonna like go from stage 2 onward. Just gonna go through this as well, because like doesn't matter. Just get to the action. Let's just do this.
Glow's just like, really in front of my pipe.
Yeah. Now here's the thing where it's like, if you've seen the movie, you're like, oh yeah, this is why. This is what it's reminiscent of. Like the same. Like this is the starting fight that you see in the movie.
Same camera angles and so on. I take it.
Yep. There's even the same deployment method, where it's just like the sort of crane extending it to the outside of the ship.
Nice.
And we even got like the super pack this time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you've got the heavy gear, haven't you?
Yep, that's correct. Hey Kakizaki, you're not gonna last long.
Hey Max, get off your wife.
Well, no, his wife hasn't arrived yet. And even then, when he finds his wife in the movie, like, it's more him indulging in a giantess fetish. Because he just finds her after she crashed, that she's still in her, like, giant Entrati form, and he is just like, beautiful.
Holy crap, jackpot!
And I'm like, you go, man. Live your best life.
You're just sitting there like, no, don't, please. You'll ruin your life. Okay, then, never mind. On with the doujinshi.
Yep. Go on, have your 8th spawn. And also have your grandchild who has like an inferiority complex over the fact that her grandparents were ace pilots during this war, and her aunt is the bass player in one of the best rock bands in the galaxy.
I mean, to be fair, with a lineage like that, you would need to be pretty hot shit in order to live up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, which, oh man.
It would be like
Mirage really does get her moment in the second Macross Delta movie, where it is like she finally gets over that sort of like problem that she has, knowing like where she comes from in her family, and finally kind of carves out her own niche. Like, it feels so good.
It'd be like finding out that your dad was Prince, your mother was Madonna, and your uncle Kurt Cobain was hanging out with fucking Jethro Tull.
Oh god, yeah.
And you're just really good at data entry.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But no, it's like how like she kind of gets her success in the movie is that like she finally finds like her specific way that she goes about like as like a combat pilot, you know, instead of just trying to like rigidly do things by the book, which makes her flying movements incredibly stiff. God, Macross Delta is so good.
I'll say it's one of the few long runners like that I can think of, where everything takes place, well, aside from the movies and so forth, everything still takes place in the same continuity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, at this point, it's like whenever the movies come about, it's a lot of it really is just the case of, like, they're wanting to kind of redo and just kind of overwrite that particular canon. I mean, like, it's more like the canonicity, it changes to fit, like, what they think is most convenient for them, if they feel like that this is going to result in, like, a better characterization for the cast. Because I definitely think that absolutely applies to something like the Macross Frontier movies, where I think those films are absolutely better than the TV anime, which, I mean, that's still good in its own right, but like, I just really like how it adds to those particular characters and does a lot to make them not feel as much like they are just send-ups to previous characters because Frontier was an anniversary series.
Frontier's the one with Cheryl, isn't it?
Yep, it's with Cheryl and Ronka, the two idols.
Yep. I always get that mixed up with Delta, and I don't know why.
Probably because Delta is the one where it's an idol group of 5. Which I remember when I first heard of that, and I was like, God damn it, they're only doing this because Idolmaster and Love Live are such a big fucking deal these days, isn't it? It's gonna dilute the whole love triangle. They're gonna like turn this into a harem series. And it was like, no, it's still a love triangle. It's just one of these idols out of 5 are the one that's like part of the relationship. And she's just one of the best characters. Freya is just the best fucking country bumpkin in the whole series. She's an adorable gremlin.
We had this shit back in the 90s with Air Bats and Idol Defense Group Hummingbird. Do not ask how I know this. I'm not really sure myself.
I'm going to make a mental note. I will look those up once the stream is over.
I think they're just really short OVAs or like 6-part series.
Those do sound like OVAs. Those sound like the kind of crazy concept that would have existed in that time period.
But it's literally like what happens when idol groups get drafted into the military but still have to perform as idols.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're basically... Yeah, it's like, what was it you were telling me before about how it's like the UK was trying to, like, kind of, like outlaw or ban bagpipes in Scotland because they're, like, considered the weapon of war?
Yeah, there was a law in the books for, I want to say centuries. The bagpipes were banned in the UK because, technically speaking, they were classed as a weapon of war because they were used on the battlefield to demoralize the enemy. And the same way that drumming was used to keep regiments together and so forth.
Yeah, and that's basically what Valkyrie and Delta is basically designed to do. I mean, they're Sound Force 2.0. They're doing the same thing that Firebomber was doing in Macross 7, where it's just like we're doing we're playing music on the battlefield to provide moral support, and it's great. Oh, I can't wait for the next Macross series. They actually announced that like it's now entering production. At Sunrise, of all things.
Oh, wow, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah, which is like, I'm definitely curious with that because I know like they usually have like Kawamori has his particular studio, Satellite, which is usually the one that kind of like handles a lot of it, and like you see what modern Macross is, you know, and it's this obviously defining like blend of 2D animation for like its main characters and backgrounds, but like when it comes to all the mecha fights, they're 3D. So I'm curious to see if Sunrise is going to be like even like still applying some of that, or if they went to Sunrise to give the animation like a completely different or traditional feel.
Yeah, I mean, I typically dislike how modern studios utilize that kind of 2D 3D hybrid. But for a show like this, I would say it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, like I think the trick with using 3D in an anime has always been like if it's for something mechanical or a vehicle, something that is clearly not meant to be as organic or expressive as like a human. I think that's where it makes sense.
Otherwise, you wind up with shit like Dorohedoro, Berserk, and XR.
Yeah, just anything fucking Gohan's that studio. Like, just whatever they make.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they think that this approach to them doing 3D animation is at all a good idea? Like, they're so confident in their own incompetence.
The thing is, I went and read some of X-Arm, the original manga. It's actually pretty good.
That's the horrifying part.
Like, it's a fairly generic shonen cyberpunk kind of series, but you know that's not a bad thing. It's fun. And then, like as I said, I watched a couple of episodes of it because everyone was saying this is one of the worst. Like, this is the room of anime.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
I gotta say, they're not entirely wrong.
Yeah, that's not something you want to be associated with.
I mean, it's certainly a claim to fame, just maybe not a good one.
It's not what you should be actively looking for.
No. I mean, fame is fame, but fame via quality is better than fame via infamy any day of the week.
For sure, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna make the value judgment on that one.
Oh yeah, I even forgot to mention, we do have like secondary missiles that we can use that are much more limited in their ammo, but they're obviously like way more powerful. I don't use them very often.
What the second ammo counter was for in the top right there.
Yeah, and you basically switch between them by pressing the select button.
So like regular homing and super homing, essentially.
Yeah, like one does more damage than the other. It's that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's one thing that is like really handy, why I like how this game handles like the button inputs for transforming, that just pressing both will hot swap between fighter and Batroid, is because when you're locking on with Batroid, you know, it's just a quick reorientation to like where the nearest enemy is, which means you don't have to do the kind of other awkward thing that usually happens as a result of playing flight combat games, where it's like, okay, they're to my side or they're right behind me, so I gotta like carve a big fucking circle around them just to get to where I can face them. Instead, you just do this. And that's like, you know, that's a distinctly like kind of Macross type of maneuver. That's a good example of what I was talking about, where it's like really needing to understand like what the advantages and disadvantages of each form are. And I think one of the bigger advantages that come with Batroid mode that is easy to understand is that because it's a robot that looks more humanoid, naturally it needs to be a bit more nimble and quick to control in certain regards. Whereas fighter mode is just, it's a fighter jet.
I think that's probably why I prefer arcadey flight sims in games like this in general, as opposed to the hardcore kind. Because at the end of the day, I just want to be able to go, okay, where's the next target? Press button. Whoopah! Facing them.
Yeah. I mean, that's like that's also part of the appeal, you know? that gets added to stuff like Ace Combat because of all those different camera modes. Like, you always kind of have an idea of where the enemy is, and you can kind of adjust to it, and it gives you a dynamic view of everything at the same time.
Like Ace Combat's that I wouldn't say it's a weird middle point, but it's a very distinct middle ground between the two extremes.
Yeah, it definitely like has to be a middle ground by extension, just because, you know, it's a game made for consoles. You don't really have the benefit of like PC flight sims where you got an entire array of keys and a mouse and like any infinite number of peripherals that you could just attach to it.
Yeah, one of my friends actually got one of the full proper flight stick setups for free. Like everything, yoke, sides, controls, pedals, everything, set it up. And I was like, you're not planning on playing any games with this whatsoever, are you? He was like, nope. But it looks fucking cool.
I mean, I still own the fucking Steel Battalion controller.
Yep. Oh no, this made that look like a Fisher Price toy.
Pretty good.
Like this thing had more buttons than I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's like working at a jacket factory. So many buttons. Initiating Danny Boy protocols. I assume that's what she was saying. That's certainly what it sounded like.
Probably. But we're heading inside the Macross. Because there's definitely the point in the movie where it is like, there's a few Zentradi stragglers that break in. I think you might actually remember this as well from the, when we did the grab bag for PS3 games, and was showing the PS3 hybrid game that covered Do You Remember Love? And we were kind of playing, like, the mission that takes place inside here, and halfway through the mission, like this street area would basically get, like, rotated 90 degrees because the whole ship's transforming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, now I remember. Because I remember it was like, how are they able to get this running while also having, like, a tiny little video in the corner of the fucking movie?
Yeah.
Like, that's some kind of... That's gonna be some kind of witchcraft.
Yeah. Also, you can probably tell with all the damage I'm sustaining, this app... you're not kidding when I'm not kidding when I said that this was, like, the harder of the two routes. There's, like, not only is it, like, more damage, but also, like, a lot more of the attacks are occasionally, like, putting me into, like, a stun position.
Also, completely random, but I had some of the toys as a kid.
Yeah.
Only ever had 2, and one of them was that mech.
Oh yeah,
Never remember
admit,
what
like,
it's called.
I think because of the way that it's always been like translated, like I always forget exactly how you're supposed to pronounce the name of the different Zentradi units.
Yeah.
I just know them by like their abbreviations. Like that's just the NJD.
Yeah. See, I just know them by how they look. So you got the egg pod.
And the fact that like pretty much all of them were stolen for BattleTech.
Yep. And 2 or 3 of them were stolen for Transformers, as we've said before.
Yeah. But mostly BattleTech.
Yeah. Well, BattleTech was equal parts influenced and shamelessly ripping off Macross.
At least their designs, as the years went on and like the game expanded, they definitely did a lot more to make sure, no, these are our designs. We have like an actual like design idea behind how battle mechs are supposed to look and function.
No, see, this one's ours. Not just because it's colored gunmetal gray.
Yeah. Like, what was it? I feel like it was a Tamino anime that like had this line. I think it was like brain powered, where it was basically just talking about like just like the Americans have no culture. All they can do is just take culture from others.
Which, considering that was a show that was very heavily influenced by Evangelion, that's something.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good rank on that, as you could see. We'll keep going as far as I can until we hit like a mission where we'll probably end up like getting a game over because of course. I think this is ending up in a. Let's see what the says for reaping. Oh yeah, we're actually back to Saturn this time.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up Google Lens just to be safe.
Oh, for the mission objective.
Yep.
I mean, unless something about it ends up going slightly differently, I got no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, actually we're using like a different unit for this one. Like this, like the special sort of recon unit. Because it has like the big radome on the top.
And we've got a different bridge bunny as well.
Mm-hmm.
Pass the reconnaissance route and acquire the position of the enemy ship.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got limited missiles to use as well for this, naturally, so I'm gonna try and be sparing with it.
I was going to say, like, it's a bit weird having a stealth mission in a flight game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird where game designers will try and, like, shoehorn stealth. Go.
Also, the little flute thing that keeps playing in the background keeps reminding me of a bit of music from The Sims.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, weird how that works out, even though this, like, yeah, this is still all music from the anime.
It's so weird how it makes me think of the house building mode music.
Yeah, that's definitely that's an interesting pull, to say the least. Yeah, this at least is a bit nicer than the one on the TV route where we had to like just defend the Macross against a wall of missiles.
Yeah.
Come on, just keep shooting. Yeah, the important thing to remember as well is just that with the gun pod, it thankfully has infinite ammo, because I feel like it would be sacrilege to put such a limitation on your on your main machine gun fire in a Macross game, but it does have to overheat. That's the only balancing point.
Needlessly weakening the that mode as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Batroid mode. Or Batroid. I can never remember how it's meant to be pronounced.
Oh yeah, it was Batroid is the the humanoid form. None to it. Yeah, this is a surprisingly much more chill mission on the otherwise harder mission route.
I feel like maybe there was a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah, but I think this is kind of like a natural consequence if you're creating scenarios that are supposed to be accurate to another source material. But oh well.
It happens quite a lot where they they wind up taking one very small detail of a story and then trying to create an entire campaign or arc out of it.
Mm-hmm. There's with all the insane controls that you have for literally 6 degrees of freedom when in Batroid or Gerwalk. It's the sort of thing where I'm man, I have to imagine that with the Ace Combat games that Namco did totally put out a flight joystick controller for PS2. And I wish I wish I could find one just to see if it would be possible to plug it in with this game and have it work.
I don't see why it wouldn't. Just whether it would be, whether it would make the gaming experience better or not, it's a different question.
Yeah. Oh god! Oh god! Alright, just fuck it. All the missiles!
Yeah, don't think I need to translate that one.
Yeah, fucking kill it. That was... Oh my god, yeah. Oh fuck, yeah, great, and I'm also out of missiles now. Shit!
There are more explosions than there are atoms in the immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a real handicap here because it's I had limited missiles. I can't even use my head beam antenna to shoot down the enemy missiles. So it's
the radome, presumably.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, this thing's just going ape shit.
I mean, you can't say with all the missiles it's firing out that it's not accurate to the source material.
Yeah. Okay. But I think maybe I can get it. Maybe I just gotta not get hit as much for the remainder by the enemy missiles. There it is. Okay, fuck.
Oh.
Yeah, my Valkyrie has seen better days. Oh Jesus!
It's doing that. It's doing that scary sparkling thing right before they explode.
Yep.
I always liked how weirdly organic the Zentradi ships looked.
Yeah, and they really upped the organic look of everything when it came to the movie. Just the much darker shade of green that they use for everything. As rough as that was, it was at least better than having to defend the Macross a second time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think... Let's see. Yeah, but... Yeah, it's another D rank.
D!
Yeah, whatever. Just sue me.
Understandable. Have a shitty day.
Yeah. I think this will be like let's see. We'll see what this mission has to offer, and then I think after that I'll exit back to the main menu, go into free battle, so I can actually show off like some of the extra units.
Cool.
Macross は現在も先ほど紹介任務に当たっていたエリントシーカー01か Macross
Okay, yeah, we're back in the VE1. We're back in the recon units.
内部のエネルギー反応は外観からすると現在我々と交戦中のしかし従って
Yeah, I know. I can't understand what you're saying, Gloria. I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. Just we're gonna have to destroy this ship. I know. Hopefully with the dataless attack.
If only I knew what to do in Operation Kelly Day Ass.
Oh yeah, oh that's right. Yeah, we're inside the ship actually. That's right now. Oh yeah, now I'm remembering where this lines up. Because I think this is gonna like end up in the part where because Roy's death in Macross happens in 2 different points depending on the continuity. You know? If it's the TV anime, it's because Gloria offered to make him a pineapple salad, which raised his death flag. But in the movie, it's they do this ship infiltration. And I believe it's like it's Kamjin, who's like the real cocky asshole Zentradi, who even after the war ends is like, fuck this peace bullshit, I want to fight. And they like him and Roy basically have a fight, and Roy ends up dying as a result. Yeah, this is kind of like a haunting sort of environment to go through.
Yeah, the fact that everywhere is just covered in little eggs with legs kind of takes away from the spookiness of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh well. I just assumed that was like Max's handiwork. just made things nice and clear for us. Seriously, this is like going through an Armored Core level.
Yeah. Oh no, this is like straight out of the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Just lots of tight corridors. Everything's green.
Yeah. Oh wait, that kind of loops back around. Yeah, I still need to get closer to where it says target, which I believe will get me closer if I go this route.
Yeah, at least you're not on a timer.
Yeah, thankfully. There it is. It's got to be through that door. Through that door. Through that door.
That door. Jesus Christ.
Finally. Yeah, this game looks as good as it does, and still at 60 FPS. And some wonder why I still say this was the best generation for games. Oh, that's right, yeah, because the movie, I think, was when they kind of established that, oh yeah, Zentradi have their own language. So those subtitles were for the Japanese to understand what the Zentradi were saying.
It was always kind of ambiguous in the TV show as to whether they were speaking English or whether it was just translated for the benefit of the viewer.
Yeah. Okay. Let's... Gotta keep going. Oh!
Mission. Fucking run!
Run your ass out of there! Or, no, actually, I think I actually just remember, for whatever reason in my head, it's just popping up like the Wayne Brady skit from Dave Chappelle. And just the end going, run, bitch, run for your life, get some help! Alright. It's just a joke, man. Proto-culture.
But that can be good.
Yeah. Now we're obviously like on a time limit now. Oh, yeah, I recognize that name that it just said. Britai, he's here.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, God, remember in the TV anime where it was like Britai just like comes in swinging with a big metal pipe against like Max and Hikaru's
oh, that's right. It's like the first time they actually...
Yeah, it just beats their asses with them.
It's like the first time they actually see a Zentradi in the flesh, and they're like,
yeah,
we weren't expecting that.
It is like, so you actually commingle male and female in the same spaces? Yeah, why wouldn't we? Hey, like, people like to hang out, have romance with each other, kiss. Kiss? What is kissing? Show us this kiss.
Kiss for us.
And then
kind of creepy about it, but okay.
Yeah. Proto-culture. and now I'm remembering the because I made this joke before, the fucking Super Robot Wars 4 coma that covered this, the fucking just Britai being introduced to all the different forms of proto-culture, starting with kissing, and then Hayato playing the harmonica, and then just ending with this one girl just spinning, going puru 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 puru, and then it just caused him to freak out. Ah, proto-culture!
See, I'm just thinking of towards the end of the series where they're like, let us try this human emotion known as kissing, and everyone's just smooching up a storm.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like,
it wasn't the smoothest exit, but whatever. Yeah.
I mean,
unfortunately,
you can
I'm
still
pretty
see
sure
the paint on it, so...
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure Roy is dead in there, so whatever. It had to happen as part of the movie. I forget. Or maybe that happens at another point after they get back to Earth. I forget. I gotta... Yeah, whatever. I guess I have to watch Do You Remember Love again? Which...
Yeah.
That's still
I bet that he just manages to survive long enough to go, hey guys, bleh.
Yeah.
Because this is Roy Fokker.
Yeah.
Famous for 2 things and 2 things only. 3.
Yeah, actually, I know like it's already dumping us in the next mission, but I am just going to, as soon as I can, head out back to the main menu, because I did say I was going to show off the other units that we can use.
So this is Mars, right?
That is correct. Yeah. Look at all those Koenig monsters that are also just like standing on the front of the Macross itself. Just the real big chunky boys.
Like, I know everyone says that like Fokker's F1 is the most iconic, but I still like that kind of paint job and design.
Yeah.
Just the basic generic UN spacey outfit or color scheme I've always really liked.
Yeah. Alright, so let's head over to Free Battle. And we'll get to see just kind of what we have to show off. Like, here's obviously like the 1A, which is kind of like the low end one that has the predominantly like light purple color job, which is to denote that this is like part of Skull 7, you know, like our particular squadron starting out.
Lavender, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there's the 1J, 1S, 1D. The 1D, I believe, that's the one that with like the orange. Like, that's the one Hikaru like commandeers like at the start of the TV anime.
Episodes. Yeah. Literally falls into the cockpit like some kind of anime protagonist.
Yeah, just a similar one, the VT Ostrich. This was the one we were piloting around Saturn, the Elant Seeker, little recon unit. Now here's what I was talking about. The VF4, the Lightning 3, which is like a prototype unit that kind of exists. So bringing up stuff with like kind of the in-between period of like Macross and Macross Plus. Like this was like a prototype unit that was made at the time of around the events of Flashback 2012, which was when the Mega Road, I think it's called, was like a new kind of the first of the humans like deep exploration vessel, like meant specifically for exploration and colonization and not and not a war machine like a Macross unit would be. And this was kind of like the new prototype unit that the UN Spacey was developing at the time. And because of like the sort of proportions, it looks kind of weird, but like when I look at it, especially in its Batroid form, like right there, I can see the workings of what would eventually become the VF-11, which was the kind of the main UN Spacey unit by the time Macross Plus starts, because because obviously there's the YF-19 and 21, but those are prototype units that are being tested to determine what the next generation of Valkyrie is going to be.
It looks really good in fighter and Batroid mode, but that Gerwalk mode looks dorky as hell.
It really does, yeah. It's just way too long-nosed.
Yeah, like that takes one wrong step, the nose cone is getting scraped across the ground.
Yeah. And then following this is basically like we're back to kind of the VF1s, but now with like the paint job of like notable pilots from the series, you know? So you got like, you know, Max, Hikaru, Kakizaki, which is blue, red, green. Roy, you can obviously have Roy's, and which is, you know, yellow, as expected. There's also, there's because in the anime, the TV anime, when Milia like marries Max and defects to the human side, like she gets to pilot her own Valkyrie, and this is her paint job.
My favorite.
Yeah. Whereas in Do You Remember Love, the opposite happens, where it's like, I mean, like she still like joins like the human side, but Max gets macronized to be Milia's height, and so at the end of Do You Remember Love, he pilots his own Zentradi unit that's like a blue color paint job. And there's Roy's color right there.
Yep. Iconic, can't deny it. Still not my favorite.
Yeah. We can also, like, from here, choose Super or Strike Pack along with Normal. And the important thing to note is that because this is another thing where the game is accurate, which highlights even more how dumb it is that you can't fire missiles in Batroid form. If you choose Super or Strike Pack, you can only use these in the missions where you're in space, because that's what it's designed for.
That's... why?
I mean, that's just how it is.
I take it the character paint jobs don't give you any like better stats or anything. It's just purely cosmetic.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh yeah, here's the moment. Here's the unceremonious death of Kakizaki.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go marry a pretty girl. No.
Yeah. Oh, there she is.
That's only a slight exaggeration as to what happens in the actual series.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you feel for every time.
About girls.
Like, Macross may not have the sort of mean streak towards killing its main characters like Tamino does in early Gundam, but
no, he kills characters like they owe him money.
Yeah, but it's like you still feel it in Macross every time an important character dies. You know?
Yeah. Other than like 80% of the human race dying out in like the last 10 episodes, it's got it's surprisingly sparing with its death count.
Yeah. Yo.
Like in terms of the human side, I think it's only like 10 characters that die overall, named ones.
Yeah. And even then, I feel like I forget. I don't think Kakizaki dies in the TV anime, but obviously, like, the thing that makes his death stand out in Do You Remember Love is because of just how unceremonious it is. Like, it's just a beam cannon from off-screen that just instantly shoots him down.
I just picture someone going, "Here's to you, Tamino."
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I swear, like, just the quickness of it, because I have seen that scene before, the quickness of it is like something out of Ideon.
Yeah, which Remind me again, was it Ideon where it's like it's the origin of that gif, or is it something else where it's like...
Kid getting his head shot off? Yeah.
Yeah, after he sees like the adult next to him get blown the fuck up, and he looks behind him and sees what happened, and then his head gets blown off.
Yeah, it's Be Invoked, the finale movie.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. Okay.
Which I watched both of those back to back at the start of the year. If you're going to do that, A, wait until winter because it fits perfectly. B, make sure you're not depressed or feeling kind of down because you will not feel better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not that it's like you'll hear a lot of people say, oh, it's the most dark and depressing anime ever, blah blah blah. Yeah, usual rhetoric from fucking people who I can only assume were raised like milk-fed veal.
Yeah.
But it gets pretty dark. Like the first 5 minutes, one of the main characters gets blown up, I think, by a landmine or something.
Oh,
and you see
Jesus.
her head just spiraling through the sky.
Yeah.
That pretty much sets the tone for the rest of the movie. It does not get better.
Come on. Just get this asshole. Yeah, like on the harder routes, and especially as you go later in the missions, enemies are a lot better at just like getting around your missiles if you don't get them just right. Now we actually have to find Miria, or I guess as it's mistranslated because L's and R's, but whatever. Yeah. Had I remembered that this was the case, I would have taken Max's paint job, but oh well.
Max just sitting in the corner like, I don't know who that guy is, but I'm into it.
Yeah.
Which, again, barely an exaggeration as to what happens.
Yeah. I mean, when Max is as good of a pilot as he is, and he is still one of the best at the age of 75, he deserves to have his kinks. Like, he's 75 in the second Macross Delta movie, and he is somehow still... They somehow, like they try and give him gray hair and a bit of face wrinkles to make it seem like, oh, look at him, he's so old now. But it's like, no, you idiot, you just made him hotter.
What can I say, kids? Banging aliens keeps you young.
Like, even though, like, he's kind of at a point in his career where, like, he is, like, still expected to be, like, a captain of his own ship, he is like, no, fuck this. Flying is what I'm made for.
And even then, at that age, it would basically be a symbolic thing.
Yeah.
You'd just be like, yeah, he's one of the classic heroes of yore. Give him a cushy commission out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere and let him do his thing. Or his wife, you know.
Yeah, it's like how... It's like how, you know, in Get a Robo, like, as that saga goes on, like, characters come and go, but, like, the one mainstay from the very first entry that still remains is Hayato. Like, that to me is what it's like. And also, unsurprisingly, in the Get a Robo arc anime, they make his hair gray and a bit more face wrinkles, and it's the same effect. He's still fucking hot. And he's still a badass. Final episode of that anime is him fighting hand-to-hand against the Getter Dino team. And it's just him doing a callback to when he literally cut off like the ears and nose of like a college student that he was trying to rope into like helping him with like a political assassination. Because he was straight up a fucking terrorist before he got recruited by Dr. Saotome.
Before, during, and after.
Yeah.
Remind me, did Getter Robo Arc actually give an ending, or did it still stop at the same point? Because remember there was some kind of confusion and controversy over that.
Well, so the reveal of Shin Getter Dragon, like, that still happens, but it cuts to credits after. It's more that they expand what happens in the events leading up to that moment. Because with the manga, like the second volume ends with like the Getter Arc team returning back to the present after they deal with the threat that is trying to destroy Getter in the past. But obviously by that point, Kamui kind of realizes that it's like, no, Getter is fucking evil. I need to destroy it somehow, and then it basically fills in the gaps because after Ishikawa passed away, they like friends of his and like his assistants looked through sketches and like kind of like unfinished drafts to kind of see where he had extended the story past that point, and he had basically only drafted up kind of basically what happened at the what was gonna be possibly like the end of that third act. Where where the Shin Dragon reveals itself. But the thing is that in the anime, after the credits, there's a post-credit sequence where like on, I think it's on the moon or on Mars, where I think it's like Kamui is basically, you know, he's defeated. He lost the Shin Dragon, and I think it's at that point where humanity is even more now on the path of basically blindly following the Getter Emperor's will. That they basically like imprison him for his crimes, but not wanting to be prisoners of fate. Like the other two pilots of Getter Arc bust him out of prison and take Arc with them, and are basically gonna try and like fight fate.
Because I'd heard, as I said, when it came out, and I kind of lost track of it because I was waiting until it was all finished.
Yeah.
But I'd heard like, oh, okay, maybe we're going to get a movie, maybe we're going to get a sequel. Because I think, if I remember correctly, the post-credit sequence didn't air in some places.
Really?
Apparently, from what people were saying, again, second, third-hand information, so, you know, take it for what it's worth. In some areas of Japan, it just cut to the credits and then that was it. Whereas other places showed the full, I assume because of advertising.
Maybe. I have to imagine that like the post credits was probably more easily seen if you were like watching it through like streaming services that it was on at the time.
That too. But people were saying that either it padded out the whole thing pointlessly and resolved nothing, or it was a satisfying and the adventure continues kind of ending, which was the most they could have hoped for.
Yeah, which I think it definitely falls into the latter. I still feel like that we deserved like a proper Shin Dragon fight, like because that was the main thing I was wanting. But even then, considering how they expanded things beforehand, just to kind of show Kamui's descent into becoming the end villain, essentially, because you know he's part Dino, and just kind of realizing, hold on. There's no place for me or my kind in this future, and I just helped the Getter Emperor preserve what is basically his status quo.
I think it's probably a case of, like, because this is one of the most influential and beloved franchises, not just Mecha franchises full stop.
Yeah.
No one really wants to have the... Well, no one wants to have the position of following it up, because in a way that is a poison chalice.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, like, this is Inishimori. It is Inishimori, isn't it?
Ken Ishikawa. Yeah.
Ishikawa.
Yeah. Ishinomori was like the it was like the Kamen Rider creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those classic series that became tokusatsu staples.
Yeah. Like, I think no one wants to try and follow them up, not just because, you know, if they fail, they're going to have their head put on a spike.
Yeah.
But also because people would be like, oh, so you think you can follow up one of the greats, do you? Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean, I can feel that... Yeah, but I think ultimately, like, with how that anime went in the end, it's like, it was still done by the guy that directed, like, all those other, like, Getter Robo anime from, like, Armageddon onward. And, like, and those are the ones that people point to where it was, like, these, like, Armageddon and, like, New Getter Robo, all that stuff that, like, they point to as, like, this was when the anime finally started to understand the tone of Ishikawa's source material. So it's like, if you had that guy doing an adaptation of an unfinished chapter in the Getter-Robo saga that also doubles as like paying homage in many ways to like past events in that saga. It's like you could not have picked a better person that would be as equipped to do it, who understands what Getter-Robo is about.
Yeah.
Let's try out one more free battle, which I'm going to... we're going to put the Lightning 3 through its paces.
So dorky.
Yeah. Go back to the Prometheus route. It does skip through like the pre-mission briefings. You know, just it's all about getting you straight into the action naturally.
So the free mode is literally just, okay, here's all the missions you've unlocked?
Yep. Pretty much. Oh yeah, just look at all those kills. And see, and here's like the part that's cool about like when with the gun pod is that it's actually 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a proper fighter jet now rather than just one underneath.
Yeah, and it's like, and you can tell why like this would have been like kind of flying around as like a sort of prototype unit, because like certain Valkyrie units, especially in later series, would eventually kind of adopt this kind of dual gun pod setup. Like the YF-21 in Macross Plus absolutely has like this same sort of design. So yeah, it's like double the gun pods, double the DACA.
Still not enough.
Never have enough.
So does it actually handle differently compared to the other units you've been using?
No, not really. It's like a Valkyrie basically just handles like a Valkyrie. Also, like, I can't believe I forgot to, like, kind of, like, mention that this was a thing that you could do, but it's like if you wiggle the stick left and right to do the sort of barrel rolls, and you do it right as the missile's about to attack, it'll dodge. And it gives you that cool camera
witch
angle.
time.
a little. I mean, like, well, no, it's not entirely witch time, like, at the God forbid, because I mean, like, A, this is before Bayonetta, and B, considering how often, like, that Platinum just, like, has such homogenized action game design, I could kind of go without having witch time anymore.
I mean, it kind of went from, you know, hey, here's a cool thing that allows you to punish the enemies if you're good, to, no, you need to learn how to do this, or you're not getting any further in the game.
I mean, the bigger problem ultimately was that, like, the game that it was introduced in is, like, has its final difficulty level designed to teach you to not rely on it because it's disabled.
Yeah.
And it's like everyone at Platinum and the rest of the industry took the wrong lessons from it. Like, it's a good early player tool, but the important thing you should be learning at is, like, not that you should be getting rewarded for it, it's just you should understand how to, like, watch enemy attacks and dodge with precision.
That always happens with the Groundbreakers, is that in the rush to copy them, everyone takes the wrong lessons from them.
Yeah, that is absolutely the case.
And it's just depressing.
Mm-hmm. There we go. 6 missiles. Maybe overkill? Not overkill enough. But yeah, just playing as like the VF4 is such like an interesting novelty. Because it's like, you know, like the sort of Macross games that came after this naturally are ones that were like, those are the ones made by Artthink. Oh wait, we already fought you.
And
oh
you're
well.
Still not using the right color scheme. Like, what the hell, man?
Ah, damn it. Oh. Yeah, that is still so cool every time it happens. Unfortunately, of course, if you time it wrong, like, you're gonna get hit by those missiles naturally.
Yeah.
It's, like, kind of finicky, I guess, as far as, like, getting the timing correct, as far as, like, when to dodge. Yes, Hasio, there are missiles. It's a lot. It wouldn't be Macross without it.
See that? See that thing there? Missile.
You see that missile? You can climb it. I mean, you could shoot it.
See that missile? Bam! There it is. See, now I'm imagining an in-universe arms dealer, like one of the ones that sell to governments, doing an E3 style presentation for their new range of armaments.
I'd like to borrow $5. The circus is in town. The Etano circus is here, motherfuckers.
So there's this giant enemy warship.
Yeah. Check out this variable fighter. Bam! and then someone asks, can't you make a variable fighter that has a fourth, like, tank form? And they're like, who do you take me for?
We've got it in Gundam and Transformers.
I mean, whatever. Like, no disrespect to Orgus. But it's like the... Like, to me, there's never been, like, a perfect trifecta of, like, different forms in a giant robot than the Valkyries and Macross. Just because of, like, the different use cases each of them have. The fast pace and frequency at which that you switch between them. And like that aspect of it, I do think is, like, improved even further when you get into games like Another Century's Episode. Or the Macross games on PSP made by Ardink, where they really do just, like, they just crank up the speed at which this sort of action happens. This, meanwhile, is, like, so much more measured by comparison, which makes sense because it's still operating under, like, a flight sim style model.
Yeah. Gearwalk mode is just a child getting frustrated mid-transformation. Yeah, no, we talked about it earlier. The first time everyone sees the Gearwalk, they're like, that's a transformer that you've just stopped midway through.
Yeah. No one quite gets it through their head the first time that, oh wait, it's like a VTOL.
Yeah. No, it's just like, Starscream is in pain, either finish the transformation or shoot him in the head.
Yeah, pretty much. How do you talk Meltrati with reverb? You have to be you have to be in giant form, I guess, for that to actually count. I guess
she actually has a literal echo box built into her helmet. It's really quite impressive.
Yeah, something like that. Just flying around as our wingmen are just talking for no reason, something or other.
And no one died. Off screen, 80% of the human race. No one we cared about died.
Considering how much like the UN spacey like heads, like the Earth government dudes are like such assholes. Like any Macross series, as soon as like there is something that like involves the actual UN spacey and like the sort of like the government heads in Macross, they are always just the most warmongering dickheads imaginable. Like, they exist to show, like, if you have any doubts about what the politics that Shoji Kawamori and his staff have, it's like, oh no, they fucking, they have every reason to talk shit about the military-industrial complex.
Oh yeah, I mean, even, you know, when I watched the Western adaptation, like, Britai is just, oh, glorious war, isn't it amazing? You know, good men dying for a justified cause. And you can just feel the derision coming off everything that he says.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, and then of course you see the UN spacey heads, and it's like, there's no reason to try and communicate with these people. They attacked first, kill them all. And it's like, you people fucking suck. in this anime that is all about highlighting that, like, there are ways to resolve conflicts that don't involve mutually assured destruction.
And then there was a core no one remembers because it's about integrating aliens into human society. Oh, we remember. We've made jokes.
Yeah.
We've been ripping into it fairly frequently.
Yeah, just... God, those last 10 episodes of the anime are just the most... They really wanted to have it be like the same amount of episodes as the first half, but they just ran out of money.
Yeah, like, I remember describing it to someone that the last chunk of it is basically, imagine if a group of aliens decided to infiltrate Earth society and instead just got drunk and started kissing each other.
Yeah.
That's a big chunk of the finale, and it is disappointing.
Yeah. I mean, like, it ultimately does, like, give the most important conclusion, which is who does Hikaru pick between the two in the love triangle. And it is ultimately the right choice. I would say in almost all cases, like, the person that a character chooses in a in any Macross love triangle is often they pick the correct one. So here we are with, like, the GBP 1 kind of like battle pack, which means it's like we're so armored that the ability to transform is not given to us.
Yeah, that is a hefty lad.
Yeah.
Those calves are gigantic.
But because of that, we may talk about, like, the annoying oversight that this game has with not allowing you to shoot missiles in Batroid form, because you only have Batroid form. Guess what? You actually can't shoot your missiles. Why couldn't you let us do this for every other unit that has Batroid mode? Why?
It was an arbitrary limitation all along. Yay.
But game balance. And it's like...
Fuck game balance, I want to have fun.
Yeah. Like that's still ultimately the thing where it's like the Macross games on PSP absolutely have a better understanding of it, even down to getting the more useless gameplay details. Like Gerwalk mode in particular comes to mind, because if you go up against like a slanted, almost vertical surface, what happens is like the Gerwalk mode will reorient itself so that its legs are touching like the slanted surface, so you get moments of mobility that are more dynamic and more reminiscent of how it actually moves in the anime, where it's like you just see it like rotating and skiing along all manner of surfaces as it is chasing its targets.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I mean, to be fair, that's something that a lot of designers still have problems with today.
Yeah. Like, the real frustrating part is like if you're trying to get other people to possibly do, oh yeah, pinpoint barrier punch into dataless attack.
And as a reminder, if you put the Falcon Punch sound over it, you are incredibly unfunny and unoriginal.
Yeah. Come on, just keep shooting this. Yeah, what was I saying? Fuck, I forget actually what I was about to say until I saw the Macross just like
Yeah.
punch a warship in its nose. But yeah, it's like this is just kind of like a cakewalk all around, because it's like we are so heavily armored. We got 2 types of missiles and our antenna beams. What could possibly stop us? Do wish that we still could, like, I don't know, punch or do melee stuff, but they ran out of buttons with this control setup. Like, I really do like, I genuinely like this approach that to a Macross game, where it is like it's a mecha game that is predominantly like informed by a flight-based physics model rather than like a mecha player movement model.
Yeah.
Like, you still have that when you're in Batroid form, but like, because the default form of Valkyries is the fighter mode where they are a fighter jet, you want to make sure that that feels at least accurate.
Yes, a flight game with arcade and action elements, as opposed to the other way around, which is what you normally see.
Definitely. But even so, it's like, I like how unique this still feels, even when like the other Macross games after this kind of adopted the reversed approach as we've talked about.
Mm.
I believe we're already transitioning into back on the inside.
I also like I was just been standing there like that for this entire time, like, well, this is awkward.
Yeah.
It's like that scene in the movie where, well, not Do You Remember Love, but in any movie where someone punches an incredibly beefy guy and he just doesn't move.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, now what do I do?
And then it just goes, my turn.
Yep. And some poor bastard gets thrown halfway across the room.
Yeah, it's great every time. Mobile suits rotating their arms 180 degrees to shoot behind them because they are robots.
Something that needs to happen. Like, we need to see more weird shit like that happening in anime, in games, in movies, you name it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, Haseo like reminded me earlier that probably like with this particular section that this is because this is like I think near the end. This is near the end of the TV anime arc in the game. I think this also coincides with when like the Zentradi are infiltrating the Macross so that Milia can infiltrate as well.
Mm.
So like she's probably already on the inside as this shit is happening. Like the rest of the Zentradi are providing a decent distraction.
Getting really pissed off because none of them are as good a pilot as she is.
Yeah. And I bet that's especially true for all the male Zentradis because it's like we can't even have her on our team. Girls are icky.
I'm sorry, but Kuti protocols demand that we cannot have you serving with us.
Yeah. God, it's real interesting thinking about how the Zentradi continue to exist in the Macross series and later entries and how it's more of a background element, but they just kind of like go on about the fact that, you know, there's still that sort of cultural divide depending on how, on like the type of Zentradi, where most of them have kind of adopted the idea that culture is good and we can do things that are of value that aren't fighting. But then you have some Zentradi that are still like predisposed naturally to violence and will just like, and this almost, I feel like this almost ends up going in the direction of kind of like racially informed like perceptions of criminals. But like the criminal population in the Macross universe seems to still predominantly be like informed by like having like Zentradi prisoners.
Which inevitably leads to someone saying, well, maybe they just do more crime. Which,
yeah,
no, that is
which
bad.
I've not, which in all the Macross series I've seen, no one has come out and said that. No character has said that, thankfully. But
I mean, the implication is clear.
I can feel the implication being made when I'm watching the second Macross Frontier movie, where SMS is having to stage like a prison break to get Cheryl Gnome out of prison. So they stage a Ronka Lee concert in the courtyard, and there are a bunch of Zentradi there, and you can tell like they're kind of like not the same type of Zentradi, and they're more purebred because they're still speaking their native language. but they still take advantage of it because like SMS also has like a Zentradi pilot like in their mercenary ranks, and it's Klon, and she's like, all right, Zentradi, be free now, and then just like gives them the signal to start a riot. It's great. Wings of Goodbye is a work of art.
In Frontier, Klein was probably my favorite character, as long as she wasn't micronized, because then it just got weird.
Yeah. And even then, I still think it's like she has like her moments, even when she's micronized. Usually, if it's like beating the shit out of Michelle.
She just reminded me so much of I mean, not just in the name, Aisha Clan from Outlaw Star.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, the first time I saw her, I was like, oh, okay, like, she looks especially catgirlish compared to most of the other characters.
Yeah.
And then she turns out to be just a total bro. And then she gets micronized and turns into this weird cat gremlin.
Yeah. I mean, the
I'm
gremlin
like,
part's great, but it's also, I mean, like, they contextualize it as much that, like, it's like a genetic,
yeah,
it's a
she's
genetic
got, like, a
defect,
genetic defect.
and she's not, and, you know, like, even though, like, you know, she looks like a cute gremlin when micronized, like, she's not happy about it, because she would like to have a romantic relationship with Michelle as a Micron without getting her or him, most likely him, thrown in jail for it.
Yeah.
So it's like, on that end, I can't really hold it against, like, the creators much of it being, like, some thinly veiled, like jailbait or whatever, because I feel like they give enough context to make it feel like this sucks as much for her.
Yeah, but by the same token, though, it does very much feel like they're trying to have their cake and eat it.
Yeah, it does. It's not, like, yeah, like, it's definitely got, like, it's trying to be get its fill of moe, kind of.
Yeah.
If she aged normally, if she stayed micronized, I imagine she probably would, but at a much slower rate compared to if she were to age while still macronized.
That, or she would just become an incredibly old gremlin.
Yeah.
Which would be weird. She'd look like one of the old Yordles from League of Legends.
Yeah. Oh well, but I mean, at least there's no character like that in Delta. I mean, there's only one gremlin in that show, and her name is Freya Weon, and she is precious. Yeah, that's Super Dimension Fortress Macross. I think that's like a solid 2 hours of just kind of showing what this game has to offer. I would love to see, like, another stab at, like, this type of Macross game where, like, the control model is predominantly flight-based. I don't know who you could get these days to really get it. Maybe the Ace Combat team, but I think that would be, I mean, I feel like that you would think that's the best chance considering it's Namco Bandai. Yeah, they have easier access to the IP than if they were to, like, outsource it to a completely different studio. The problem is like, does the Bandai side of the company give enough of a shit to want to do this?
I mean, they will literally staple on their teams and engines to any license that will hold still for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So the fact that Ace Combat has basically gone untouched for, 20 odd years? Like, I don't think they've done any spin-offs using any of the Ace Combat engines or teams.
Yeah.
License spin-offs, I mean.
Like, I feel that would be, because that'd be the best chance, since, you know, there are other studios out there, you know, mostly on the, like, the Western PC side of things that have, you know, that do flight sims and things like that. But it's like, yeah, you could definitely expect them to get the flight model correct if you're piloting a Valkyrie in fighter form. But would they understand the first thing about what the role of Gerwalk in Batroid mode is supposed to be and how to make it control? I don't think you would get something good out of that. I feel like at least with the Ace Combat team, even though, like, their stuff is explicitly flight-based to a T, like, they're still Japanese. Like, they grew up with this. You know, Japan just has, like, more cultural context for mecha as a genre than the rest of the world does. That I think they would realize that there's a lot riding on making sure that all three forms of a Valkyrie play and control the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, when you are looking at a game like this, you're more or less looking at 2.5 different types of gameplay.
Yes.
You've got the air combat with the fighter mode. You're gonna, if you're using the Batroid, that's gonna be like third person essentially.
Yeah, that's game mode number 2.
Yeah, and the Gerwalk would need to occupy some kind of middle ground between the two. Yeah. To the point where, like, I could easily see a lot of companies, you know, not thinking of any in particular, but just whoever was given the license, essentially either treating it like a half-assed fighter or almost like a helicopter.
Yeah.
And only keeping it for specialized sections, you know? Like,
Yeah.
now you need to go in and rescue some civilians, or you need to deliver some cargo and transport it over here.
Mhm.
Which, again, kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that would be bad, but again, with certain licenses, with most licenses, I would say, you need to focus on what makes it special and individual. And that would be missing the point entirely.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, unless it is made by fans and still like made closely with like the owners of it, with like close oversight to make sure it lines up. Like if those two are in sync, that's like the best chance you have to put out something that is like faithful to what the IP is about.
Yeah, this is something where normally I would say, like, keep the fans the fuck away from anything, because they will only make it worse. Like this, we have seen it time and again. To err is human. To really fuck things up, bring in the fans.
Yeah,
But,
ain't that right, shithead?
Yeah. But I feel like this would be one of the few times when it would be justified.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I mean, with most long-running franchises, essentially, they have become fan fiction. This is, hey, wouldn't it be cool if this happened in this series?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like,
Haseo brings up as much. Hey, check out my fan fiction.
Yeah, that's an unavoidable fact of life these days. But by the same token, fans can understand things in a way that work for hire types will not. Like I've been reading a whole load, basically everything X-Men chronological since 1975. My brain is different now. Thank you for asking. And I've been talking about it with people who are like, either they have a good understanding of it or they have no understanding. And yeah, like, once you actually start talking about these things with people, you really understand how a lot of the writers that come later either have the most in-depth understanding of the property and the characters and the universe, or they have zero. There is literally no middle ground between the two.
Yeah.
I mean,
Haseo brings up like a good middle ground of use like some super fan as a consultor, but let someone else make it. Like obviously, if like the someone else being like a very a professional game developer in this instance.
I mean, I was literally just about to say, LucasArts used to have like 3 or 4 people on staff specifically to keep track of canon.
That's true, yeah.
I don't think Disney does that now, which on the one hand, I can understand why.
Yeah.
Because it was becoming a noose around their neck. But by the same token, you need someone who knows this shit and can keep everything straight. And who can like, when there's a story of when they were doing the Star Wars prequels, someone went up to, because the special effects guys, they need to know the most stupidly in-depth details about how things work in order to make them appear realistic on the screen. So there was a scene where, I think it's in Attack of the Clones, where Yoda's out on the battlefield for the first time. They're like, okay, so we want to have a scene where the sun's behind Yoda and you can see through his ears, just so we know what color is his blood. And it's not something that would ever occur to anyone else. But for the special effects guys, they need to know these things so they can portray it accurately. And George Lucas just literally went, I don't know, green? And he got a lot of shit for that, because they're like, oh, A, that's what would be considered a completely useless piece of information to 99.9% of all people out there. And B, it's clear that he was making it up on the spot.
Yeah.
Thing is, he's probably never thought about it up until that point. And at the end of the day, someone needs to make a judgment call on these things, otherwise nothing's going to get done.
True.
So you do need someone, and let's be honest, if it's going to be anyone, it's going to be a fan, to sit down and go, right, here's what this is going to be. And, yes, inevitably someone's going to push back against it, but as I said, ultimately someone needs to make that call in the beginning.
Yeah. And hopefully maybe someday people will start making the right calls again to get like a real Macross game made in the future, especially now that Harmony Gold's like grip has waned significantly. That Big West is now starting to call more of the shots as far as like getting having put a plan together to get major entries in this series localized finally.
Has it come out yet? Or because I know that we were supposed to be getting a really big Macross box set that was coming over to the States at least.
I think that might be, if not this year, then like next year. I think all the first things that they had been doing as part of their plan was like having like actual official screenings of like, I think it was the Frontier movies at like around the time of like anime conventions here in the States.
Yeah, because I know that they were planning on doing the earliest stuff and the latest stuff.
Yeah.
Like the early stuff, obviously, for people who grew up with, and I'm going to say, Robotech.
Damn it.
And then I had to. Just because the nostalgia market
you get
is...
one R pass, and that's it for this entire fucking series.
Screw you, you no longer control me. But yeah, obviously, like they've been wanting to cash in the nostalgia market for the last 20 odd years. And the fact that they haven't been able to has been a big bugbear for pretty much everyone involved except for Harmony Gold.
Yeah, because past the original Macross, it's like... Wait, hold on, I'm trying to remember, like, I want to... Yeah, because, like, Macross Plus back in the day did get an English dub, so it's like, it's not like it's completely unknown to people in the West, but, like, yeah, it's basically Macross 7, 0, Frontier, and Delta, and, like, kind of, like, the associated movies and extra material. So that's, like, 4 series that are basically untouched for a lot of people.
Yeah, other than Plus, which, I mean... Fuck, I've got a copy of the OVAs and the movies. So, obviously Harmony Gold was asleep in the job for the 10 minutes that was allowed to come out.
Yeah, somehow.
But, yeah, like, we're talking, the better part of about 100 or so hours worth of content that has been allowed to basically slip into near obscurity. Like, Macross has never stopped really being popular in Japan.
Yeah.
But
it had, like, a noticeable spike into uber popularity when Frontier came out. And I think with Delta, it's, like, still remained popular, but didn't have, like, the same zeitgeist around it that Frontier did for obvious reasons. But, like, if there was ever a point where you looked at it and somehow thought that this series was no longer in favor with like any amount of people in Japan, it's like you'd be flat out wrong.
Yeah, it's like another series which it would be very similar to would be Space Battleship Yamato. Like that's another one that it has this. I would say it's got the same level of reverence. It's never stopped being popular, and it's still. Like, there's usually a big time gap between new installments or remakes, as we've had quite recently. But it's remained steady with obvious spikes and wanes as time goes on. But it's never stopped being beloved.
Yeah. God, yeah. Rip Matsumoto, and not going around to see the franchise hopefully continue. Yeah, because it's like. Yeah, it's a good example you brought up because, like, what we're ultimately talking about is, like, these are basically series that have earned the right to be considered legacy franchises. It's the sort of thing where I think it's like, how, like, they might not be, like, the most popular, like, main thing that, like, that, like, informs, like, what new animation, or, like, what new animated shows or whatever is about, but, like, people in the West, I think it's not hard to think that, like, people still know and remember what the fuck Looney Tunes is, or Scooby-Doo, or the Flintstones. Because it's the same thing where it's like, they're legacy series that are always going to hang around, and someone, at some point, is going to be like, let's do a new thing with them. And, and it could go either way, especially in some of those cases. It could be stuff where it's like, someone's just some executives completely missing the point, or it's given to someone that has like an understanding of what made it appealing to people in the first place and just kind of show it some genuine love.
Yeah, at the very least, like, you're always going to see Bugs Bunny T-shirts. You're always going to see Looney Tunes on cable somewhere. You know, it's never, it's not like, with the exception of movies like Back in Action, which was arguably a flop, despite the fact it's actually a pretty good film. You know, it's never really gone away. It's not in like, people probably won't think of Looney Tunes first and foremost when you talk about, when you say, hey, go up to a random person, tell me about a Western cartoon. They'd probably go, Mickey Mouse. Fair enough. Think of another one. Daffy Duck. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's that enduring impact, if only because of momentum. You know, it's been around long enough. People are just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, and Macross has always had that, especially in part to music being a big thing.
Yep.
An anime may only run for 26 episodes, but you know what lasts longer than, like, half a year? Concerts.
And
I mean, I'm looking forward to what they got cooked up for that next Macross series, that's for sure. and then just what they got planned for musical acts in like the 5 years after it.
I mean,
Pink Panther surviving his house insulation. That's a good one.
Just harvesting him for more fur. Why is his fur made of fiberglass? We don't talk about the 1980s. What has that got to do with anything, Dad? I don't know. Shut up and drink your house insulation. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I don't know.
I
think we've kind of gone over all we needed to about Macross, especially as it relates to the series that started it all, its lasting legacy, and that this approach to a Macross game absolutely needs a revisit. As much as I love the more arcadey games that came after this, I mean, we could definitely do with both. That's for sure.
I mean, it's not bad for a series that averages, 8 to 10 years between installments?
Yeah. Like, it's less than Gundam usually does, and for that matter, I feel like Gundam could afford to take a lesson or two from how this series does things. It certainly keeps itself more consistent, both in canon and in, like, what themes it is going to, like, keep maintaining across series. I mean, I guess you could say the themes kind of altered from culture shock to music is the most all-powerful force in the known fucking universe. Which, I believe that.
I always said, like, of all the things in Macross, like, because, I mean, the thing that people always used to take the piss out of it was music is the most powerful tool in the human's arsenal. And I'm like, have you never been having a shitty day and heard the right song at the right time, and it just makes the rest of your day better?
Yes.
Now tell me that that's bullshit. Because
it makes you happy, or you find like the right angsty song that just like makes you go, yeah, fuck this.
Or you just you hear a new song at the right moment, and you literally feel like you've been hit with a bolt of enlightenment. Like, anyone that hasn't had that happen to them, either you are a big lying liar who lies, or I feel so very sorry for you.
Yeah. Music and love can even change the devil.
I will take that.
Those are words I'm definitely going to remember till the end of my days.
Yep.
It may not change the, I guess we'll call them devils, the ones that exist in our world today.
I don't know. Hit anyone with a boombox hard enough, I'm sure you'll shake something loose.
Yeah. I mean,
no,
as Ron Perlman says, there's more than one ways to lose your house.
I'm just going to say, if I've accidentally implicated anyone that's watching this, see you in court.
Just
what have I got planned? None of your business. See you on Monday.
I am going to stand at the front line of revolutionary change and is just gonna be like blasting Valkyrie's albums. Full blast.
It's going to be like that scene from Say Anything with John Cusack in the boombox, except you're holding it up with one middle finger on each side extended.
No, it's not going to be a middle finger. It's going to be the, it's what I call the Valkyrie gang sign, where it's like, it's a particular, like, unfortunately, I don't have my camera, well, obviously, because I wouldn't show my face on this stream, God forbid, but it's like, in Macross Delta, like, the members of Valkyrie, like, they do, like, a little hand sign that is supposed to represent, like, a W, because, like, that's, like, the first letter. But, like, there's also a variant of it where two of the members will, like, they do, like, peace signs, and, like, because they're lesbians with each other, they, they match it together. And I think that specifically, it's either coincidence or it's deliberately a reference on the part of the creators that it's like a West Side kind of gang reference, which is why I call it the Valkyrie gang sign, because that's what it's like. God,
man, Japan's weird.
God, this is great. Thanks again for being on board with covering this with me.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and look forward to next week's Year of the Mecha. Back to Armored Core. Cool Guy will be on for that as we're continuing our journey through 3rd Gen AC, going into Armored Core Nexus, which will be
a ride that never ends.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, for fuck's sake, we still got a little more than 5 months after this to keep going through more mecha games. The ride doesn't end.
And only 22 of them will be Armored Core.
Oh, it's only 5 more. Yeah, I just had to quickly count.
That was only a minor exaggeration at best, and you fucking know it.
Yeah, minor air quotes. Yeah, whatever. We'll okay. Well, we'll also like quickly go over after like what. Oh wait, no, I actually, because I remember what the other thing that you're booked for this month after Armored Core is Tetsujin 28. Yeah, the original thing that it was your original main game for July. You were going to be a co-com for until I needed to get this quickly filled in for.
You lucky bastards get a double helping of me.
Minor Valkyrie hand sign. That's a good one. Okay. All right.
See, that sounds dirty.
Yeah. Okay. Y'all have a good rest of your fucking weekend, everyone. We're heading off. Take care.
Later.
Peace.
Game over.